Mexico City, Coyoacán, Cala Vienna, scene of one of the most spectacular political murders of the 20th century. The last refuge of the hero of the Russian Revolution and legendary leader of the Red Army, Leon Trotsky. On the 20th of August 1940, he was struck from behind by Ramon Mercader, alias Frank Jackson, with an ice pick on the orders of Joseph Stalin. When my grandfather stood up, he was covered in blood. His glasses were smashed. He sat in the doorway, and as his wife Natalia hurried to him, he pointed with his finger and said just, "Jackson," as if he wanted to say that was where the attack we had expected came from. 26 hours later, Trotsky was dead. For 43 years of my conscious life, I have been a revolutionary. I have fought under the banner of Marxism. If I could begin all over again, I would of course try to avoid this or that mistake, but I would never change the main approach. One can say that in his life there were many caesuras, many climaxes and one steep fall. If Shakespeare had lived in the 20th century, Trotsky would doubtless have been one of the heroes of his famous dramas. In 1917, under Lenin's leadership, the working class seized power in a mighty struggle. Sergei Eisenstein's famous film October, pictures that lie. The most talented man at Lenin's side, Leon Trotsky, the real organizer of the October Revolution, airbrushed out by his worst enemy. Stalin began very early on to eliminate the figure of Trotsky. Also, when he demanded to monitor Eisenstein's film about the October Revolution, his aim was to distort the image of Trotsky. This false impression then went around the world. Stalin's whole apparatus did everything to deny, blur and falsify my part in the October Revolution. Let's be clear about it. If Lenin and I had not been in St. Petersburg, there would have been no October Revolution. The Russian capital in 1917, the stage for the revolutionary drama that would change Russia's destiny forever. February had seen the fall of the hated Tsarist regime. The World War and general distress had brought the people out onto the streets. After centuries of repression, it was their first moment of freedom. In the resulting power vacuum, there arose a dual system that was to have major consequences. On the one hand, the provisional government of middle-class parties. On the other, the Council of Workers and Soldiers, the Soviet. Revolutionaries stormed to Petrograd from all over the country. One of them was the 38-year-old Leon Trotsky, a loner, a figurehead. His rival Lenin was 10 years older. He led the radical party known as the Bolsheviki, two self-appointed missionaries.
I think Lenin and Trotsky thought of themselves as somehow being, the spokesman of the working class. The working class has no voice. We are its avant-garde. We are speaking for it. And they imagined or assumed that that's what they were doing. I don't think that was phony. I mean, they thought they were creating a real working class revolution.
By bringing down the old order, the hope was to create a better world without exploitation and deprivation, the eternal working class paradise. This was what Trotsky fought for during that summer of 1917, with his sharpest weapon, his tongue. He would stir up the masses for 20 hours a day, everywhere, in factories, theatres, barracks. Trotsky's attraction resulted from a fanatical belief in the idea. No orator is convincing who does not believe in the power of his words. That's where this charisma came from, and the magnetism with which he drew the public. Since his arrival, Trotsky had been a member of the Soviet. He stood between all the political trends. How do you make a revolution? Lenin, who'd been arguing with Trotsky about this for years, now surprisingly offered to cooperate with him. But Trotsky still rejected the offer. Soon afterwards, the provisional government declared Lenin an outlaw. He was forced to flee abroad. A week later, Trotsky became a Bolshevik. A brilliant organizer, he soon assumed a leading role in the party. In October, he became chairman of the Petrograd Soviet and created a paramilitary force, the Red Guards. By the time Lenin secretly returned to the country, Trotsky was the leading figure in revolutionary Petrograd. Lenin urged an immediate armed uprising against the bourgeois government. Trotsky was to organize it, but many in the party leadership did not believe success was possible. One of these ditherers was Stalin, later Trotsky's greatest enemy, but at that time a man of no political importance. The decisive meeting in Eisenstein's film October. Here it is Trotsky who is the great ditherer. Only at the end does he reluctantly agree. Actually, it was Stalin who hesitated, and it was precisely because Stalin had this reputation of having hesitated at this decisive juncture that he was forced later to play down Trotsky's role and to falsify history by making himself the second architect of the revolution, standing at Lenin's side. By the time of Mikhail Rom's film Lenin in October, produced to mark the 20th anniversary of the revolution, the roles were definitely reversed. In fact, it was a brilliant move by Trotsky that secured power for the Bolsheviks. On his orders, the Red Guards streamed through the streets of Petrograd, inconspicuously occupying strategic points and key positions, factories, government offices, barracks. Armed militias also drew up in front of the Smolny, Trotsky's headquarters and the seat of the Soviet. It was here at 1 p.m. on the 7th of November that he declared the provisional government to be deposed. When word of the Bolshevik coup spread through the Soviet, there was opposition. Trotsky told the critics to go out where you belong, into the ash heap of history. They did indeed walk out, leaving the Bolsheviks in control of the Soviet as the strongest